corresponding to the 22nd day of July 2024. Today's class dedicated for the Refuah Shelema of Agam Yosef Ben Mor, Zipporah Bat Marinel, Eleni Orna Bat Hen Hana, and Menachem Ben Belina among the Holim of all of Am Israel. As we know, tomorrow, unless Mashiach comes, we'll have the Ta'anit of the 17th of Tammuz. For those who live in Miami, Ta'anit starts at 5:30 in the morning and concludes at 8:33 in the evening. Please feel free to take out the fast day newsletter that is outside, as well as the chart of the different halachot which are applicable with the onset of the 17th of Tammuz. We know that halachically we have three stages in the period of Jewish law known as Ben HaMesarim. From tomorrow the Ta'anit till Rosh Chodesh Menachem Av, from the second day of Av till the week of Tisha B'Av, and the actual week of Tisha B'Av. And as the weeks and days are progressing, the halachot become a bit more intensified. In the case that someone has a specific question, feel free to reach out to your local rabbi if you're out of town, or if you're in town, feel free to reach out to me after the class, Be'ezat Hashem. Okay, so there are a couple of topics that I would like to discuss, and I will start with the reasons of the Ta'anit, simply due to the fact that tomorrow we may have a Berit Milah after the main minyan. Yeah, no food. No, okay, a Berit Milah in Ta'anit. And the way the Lacha writes that in the Ta'anit you also do the Milah early in the morning, do not wait till the late afternoon, do the Milah and then do the Saudah at the end of the fasting. So tomorrow, with the lengthy prayer that we have with the special Tahanunim and the Milah, we're not sure if we're going to be able to do a broadcast, but at least we're going to cover some historical facts today, and Be'ezat Hashem, time allows tomorrow, we'll do something as well. So there are basic reasons why we fast on the 17th of Tammuz. The first and main reason is the sin of the Egel, known in Torah as Het HaEgel. We think the Het HaEgel, the sin of the golden calf, is one of the most famous unfortunate incidents that affected our forefathers in the desert after Yesiat Misraim, and is part of the payment plan that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to Am Israel under the leadership of Moshe Rabbeinu, when Moshe Rabbeinu negotiated with HaKadosh Baruch Hu some time of consequence for this particular sin. We know that when it came to this unfortunate incident of the Egel, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted literally just to wipe out Am Israel, so to speak, and start brand new from Moshe Rabbeinu. And obviously Moshe Rabbeinu was not only our teacher, the greatest Navi, but actually he was a great defender of the Jewish people. That's the reason why tomorrow in the Ta'anit, when we read the special reading of the fast day, what parasha we read? By Hal Moshe et Penei Hashem Elokav. Hashem, Moshe Rabbeinu speaks to Moshe, or Mechila, Moshe Rabbeinu speaks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He beseeches HaKadosh Baruch Hu to have mercy, and that's the reason why tomorrow part of the reading of the Sefer Torah is what? The 13 attributes of mercy. And Rashi explains, if you look, Rashi in Perashat Ki Tisa, that the arrangement that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made with Moshe Rabbeinu was actually an arrangement of love and flexibility. Now, what kind of arrangement HaKadosh Baruch Hu made with Moshe Rabbeinu? Short answer. I'll bring an example from the world of business, and then we're going to transfer that example into the agreement between Moshe and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. A person wants to buy a house. wants to buy an apartment, and you go to the bank, you ask for a loan, you get a mortgage. Wonderful. Standard mortgage, usually 30 years, correct? Although interest rates are very high nowadays, hopefully soon will come down a bit. Bezat Hashem, we'll see what happens later on. But that's the expectations that the experts of the banking industry are saying, especially after the major political developments that we have seen in the past few days. Very good. You apply for a mortgage, Baruch Hashem, you get approved, you pay in 30 years. Usually the mortgage payment stays the same unless you made APR adjustment. That's a different story. Balloon payment. I'm talking about conventional 30-year mortgage. Correct? So far, how I'm doing? I'm not in the mortgage business, but I'm a human. Of course I know. Thank God. Baruch Hashem. God gave me the knowledge of knowing that as well. Okay. And the experts of the business industry, they tell you, whenever you have extra money, you pay to the capital, to the main capital. This way, the 30 years can be lowered, can be 27 years, 25 years, 20 years, depends how much extra you give. So far, so good. Imagine yourself that you have a mortgage that is, instead of 30 years, is for 3,300 years. How much is going to cost you? Cents. Cents. Nothing. This is exactly what was the agreement that God and Moshe Rabbeinu made. Rashi says, Hashem says, okay, the action of those involved was a very serious and critical sin because it included idolatry, included immorality, and included also murder. Because today, the 16th of Tammuz, according to what I saw in the book of biographies, was the day that Hur, the son of Miriam, was killed in the sin of the Egel. Moshe Rabbeinu broke the Luchot on the actual 17th of Tammuz, which is tonight. But when the rebellion of the Egel actually began today. Sure, that's what the Pasuk says. Vayara am ki boshesh Moshe laredet et minahar. There was a miscalculation, or let's say it easier, a discrepancy of 6 hours. That's the concept. Vayara am ki boshesh. Boshesh is beshesh. No sheshbesh. No. I know you want to play sheshbesh. Okay, tole. I know you want to do that. That's not what I'm referring to. Talking about 6 hours, miscalculation. Do you count it from the moment that he left, or you count from the beginning of the next day? So when this rebellion starts of wanting to do the Egel, Hur, let's recap. Who was Hur? Hur was the son of Miriam, the son of Caleb ben Yefuneh. The famous Caleb ben Yefuneh from the tribe of Yehudah that was a spy on the mission sent by Moshe Rabbeinu and on the mission sent by Yoshua bin Nun, as we learned yesterday, Caleb was married to Miriam, the sister of Moshe. He was the brother-in-law of Moshe Rabbeinu. They had a son by the name of Hur. Hur protested. He said, what are you doing? You going against God? After you saw all the miracles in Egypt, the plagues, the splitting of the Yam Suf, the manna, the waters, the clouds, and you're still saying we need a substitute God, so to speak, and you create an idol, what happens? Hur was killed. He was murdered. Hur was no Shevet Yehudah. He's the son of Caleb ben Yefuneh, so he's from Shevet Yehudah. So when Aharon sees that his nephew Hur was killed, Aharon says, if I protest, they're going to kill me too. But if they kill me, the avon is even bigger. Why? Because Aharon was Navi. Kohen he became later. But Aharon Ahicha, the Pasuk says, Ihye Neviecha. So Aharon says, I need a plan from the ladies. Now, why did Aharon send to the men to get the jewelry from the ladies? Because Aharon knew that when the ladies will hear that the reason why the husbands wanted to have jewelry to create an idol, they will have rebuked their husbands and tell them, are you crazy? You're going to do an Avodah Zarah? You're going to do an idol after the miracles and wonders that HaKadosh Baruch Hu performed from the Jewish people? Not in vain, the Torah says, B'zchut nashim tzadkaniyot yatzeu avotenu mimisraim. Let's not mince words. With all of the men's department present next to me. Also, the Gemara writes, in the merit of the Jewish wives, the Jewish women, Bnei Israel left Egypt. That they went above and beyond, especially during the challenging times of the decree of Paro and all the challenges that the Jewish people experienced to slavery. So Hur was actually killed today, the 16th day of Tammuz. And we all know the unfortunate end that Moshe Rabbeinu comes down. By he, Moshe comes down from the mountain and he breaks the Luchot on the 17th of Tammuz. And the Gemara brings down that there were a couple of more historical events that prompted that the Hachamim will establish a day of fasting. Another one was that the Korban Tamid was no longer offered during a certain period in the first Bet HaMikdash, and eventually the Nebuchadnezzar brings down the Bet HaMikdash, the destruction of the first Bet HaMikdash. Second Bet HaMikdash, they place an idol in the Bet HaMikdash. They put a pesel, they put an idol in Avodah Zarah, and eventually brought the destruction of second Bet HaMikdash. Bottom line, there were a couple of calamities that affected the Jewish people in a day like tomorrow. That's what the Gemara writes, that Hashem sends salvation or solutions through good people. That's the language of the Gemara. Or challenges through people that themselves are a headache. That's the language of the Gemara. But the Gemara also adds that days of the calendar also have that power, that have the power of becoming a wonderful day, or has the power of becoming a very challenging day. So then, somebody's question was earlier, so you can never hope that the day will turn good? So the short answer is, of course. I tell you why. I like to bring, number one, a pasuk from the book of Iyov. I believe that is the source. And the pasuk there says, good morning, Ketz Sam Lahoshech. Darkness has an expiration date. In other words, you buy a food, you buy medicine, they give you expiration date. Hamavdil, without comparison, darkness, says Iyov, also has an expiration date. And what are the proof we can bring to reinforce this statement? Megillat Esther. Everybody knows the story of the book of Esther. What happens? We were about to be part of history. We were about to be part of a museum. And yet suddenly the Megillat Esther says, Benahafohu. Everything got reversed. The day that was earmarked to be a day of darkness, of destruction, of hardship for Bnei Israel, it actually became the day of the salvation of Am Israel. The Hatam Sofer Alav Shalom writes, and it says, the day of the 17th of Tammuz has the same power. That yes, it is a day that there were a couple of tragedies, and these are only the tragedies written in the Talmud. If you read the newsletter that we put out from the synagogue, which is here, you can see it outside, okay? Look on page number 2. I write a couple of additional historical events. I'll tell you some. In the year 1239, okay, we're talking about the period of history between the Crusades and the Inquisition, okay? The Pope, I'm not going to say his name, but obviously the Pope means related to Christianity, and the Vatican ordered the confiscation of all manuscripts of the Talmud. No Gemara. France, later on, cloned the same concept with one difference, that they burned them. Here was confiscation. In France was burning. In the Holocaust was capture the yeshiva students and the hachamim. Every couple of generations, they understood that if we are able, let's call it the way it is, if we are able to cut the ties of the Jewish people with the Torah, with the Talmud, with the Hachamim, guess what? Khalas. And that's, in a way, I listened yesterday and trying to remember who did I listen this shiur from. I believe it was, I think, Rabbi Rosenblum, maybe from Israel. No. It was definitely a great Talmid Hacham. It was in Hebrew. I listened to a few classes. I was driving yesterday for a bit, and one of the things that he pointed out, it was about this week's parasha. And he explains that when the Torah gives us boundaries, okay? The Torah gives us boundaries in many levels. Ushmartem et mishmarti, the pasuk says. Asu mishmeret le mishmarti. Yani build safety nets to protect our spiritual well-being. It's like you buy medicine. You go to the supermarket, you go to a pharmacy, let's say you buy Tylenol, you buy Advil, over the counter. Not talking about prescribed, over the counter medicine. What do you see? Number one, there has a cap, and on top of that, underneath has a seal. Why they have a seal? To prevent, God forbid, someone of fooling around with it. Hamavdil, that comes actually from the Torah. Asu mishmeret le mishmarti. The Torah says, build yourself fences to protect yourself. And this is in a way what happened with Zimri ben Salu in this week's Torah portion. Zimri ben Salu is mentioned in this week's parasha. The Torah does not mention him at the end of last week's Torah portion. The Torah says there was a Jew involved with a Gentile lady. So the great rabbi asks, what was, can you imagine, the Gemara says this, Zimri ben Salu was 250 years old. You know who was Zimri ben Salu? Who was he? Shimon, yeah, but that's the last identity. You know how many names Zimri ben Salu had? I'll tell you. Hazako Baruch. One of these names was Shelumiel ben Suri Shaddai. And another name that he had was Shaul ben Akenaanit. Who was Shaul ben Kena'anit? You know who he was? He was the son born to Dinah. Remember the story of Dinah and Shechem? What happened? He violated Dinah. No, wait, no. Wait, استنى شوية روحي. Give me a chance. Remember, we record live these classes, so I'll do most of the talking. And if I ask questions, then you get to ask. Good question. So let me explain. Dinah was violated by Shechem. Everybody knows this, so far so good. What happened after that violation? She became pregnant. She became pregnant with a girl, which eventually we know her as the name of Osnat. She married Yosef Sadiq in Egypt. Why we should call Osnat? Osnat is a son. Tragedy. Or if you reverse the letters, honest, violation. That's why she was called that name. So that takes care of the baby girl born from Dinah and Shechem. But do you know that Dinah refused to leave the city of Shechem? Dinah says, I'm not leaving. Who is going to marry me? She was violated by a goy, by a Gentile. Who wants her? You know who married her? Her brother, Shimon. Shimon came to the rescue. Says, because before the Torah was given, that's how people got married. Brother and sisters. Keep it in the family. True, by the way, true. That's how the marriages were. I know it doesn't sound normal because we're thinking with the post-Torah giving the concept. Back then, everybody had brothers, sisters. That's how people lived. Anyways, from this relationship, a boy was born. And the Torah mentions his name. Shaul ben HaKena'anit. That was the son of Dinah and Shimon. Later on in the Torah, he became the prince of tribe of Shimon. Don't minimize 1 minute Zimri ben Salu. Yeah, he had a hiccup at the end of his life. But what prompted this hiccup? He knew more and better than Moshe Rabbeinu. That he became involved with a Gentile lady. And he eventually is executed by Pinchas. Now, what prompted someone that is the tribe of Shimon to go down in history as someone executed for committing a sin of immorality? Even though his intentions may have been holy according to the deep books. But I'm not going to say nothing about it. Don't try this. Okay? What prompted him to act in this way? You need to know the background of this story. Who was this girl that became intimately involved with Zimri ben Salu? Short answer, the daughter of Balak. Balak gave his daughter for immorality purposes. Go and seduce a Jew. Which one? There are 600,000 of them. Go for the top. Go for Moshe Rabbeinu. She wanted to seduce Moshe Rabbeinu. She's walking around. I'm looking for the rabbi. Everybody had beard. Everybody looked religious. Shaving is something from the past few centuries. Don't worry, Mashiach comes, all the shavers will disappear. Sure. Don't worry about it. Relax. Okay? Don't worry. Now, don't despair. That's for sure. That's for sure. I'm Brown, I'm Phillips. Sure, of course. Anyways, relax. They're watching VI Torah. Relax. Okay? So what happened? She's looking, I'm looking for the rabbi. That was the statement. Look in the Midrash. Says, I'm looking for the rabbi of the Jewish people. Zimri ben Salu says, are you Moshe? Moshe, are you Moses? Zimri says, I'm bigger than Moses. I'm bigger than Moshe. She said, what do you mean you're bigger? He says, because Moshe is from the tribe of Levi. I'm from the tribe of Shimon. I'm 250 years old. Do the numbers. 210 years in Egypt, plus a couple of years before. Now we are in the desert, at least 250. It was probably more. So then he goes to Moshe and asks Moshe, Moshe, can I marry this girl? Oh no. So Moshe froze. What kind of question are you asking? You're the leader of the Jewish people. You are from the tribe of Shimon. You knew Yaakov Avinu. You know Yosef. You knew Levi. All the Shevatim. And that's the type of question, can you be with the Goya? So Moshe Rabbeinu freezes. If you say no, then who will allow you to marry Tzipora? That's when Pinchas step up to the plate. Because Moshe Rabbeinu froze. So the great rabbi explained that this action of Zimri ben Salu, he wanted to beat the system. I know better. I can handle it. I will be able to do what I need to do. And that's why the Goim, throughout history, they understood this. When Haman made the decree against the Jewish people, you know what was the first decree that Haman made? Don't learn Torah. Prohibition of learning Torah. The Greeks, prior to the miracle of Hanukkah, what did they say? Prohibition to learn Torah. We just discussed this Pope in the year 1239. Get rid of all of the books of the Talmud. France says, forget about putting them in the warehouse. Burn them. Because between the Crusades and the burning of the books, there were at least 500 to 600 years, I believe, of human history. And the Holocaust, as I mentioned before, a while back we had a class and they show us documentation that the first line of hurting the Jewish people basically was capture the Hachamim and the yeshiva students. Because once the Hachamim and the yeshiva students are out of the picture, so who carries the spiritual life? Like I said to somebody yesterday, he says, you wonder why there is assimilation? Assimilation can only function if we are not connected to our Torah, to our minhagim, to our traditions, to our customs, to our family traditions. As long as we have the spiritual connection, we are able to move and to function and to act in a proper way and to keep a fence. And the great rabbi said, this was the issue with Zimri ben Salu. He says, I know better than Moshe Rabbeinu. He said, who are you? You think that you know better than Moshe Rabbeinu? Guess what? In our days, we have people exactly who think like that. I know better than the rabbis. I know better than the Torah. Unfortunately. And Torah is telling us in this week's parasha the opposite. The opposite. You cannot say, I know better than the Torah. You cannot say, I know better than the Hachamim. Now, I'm not saying that Hachamim are in the level of Moshe Rabbeinu, but at least normal rabbis, that they are within the parameters of the Torah. And it happened to me the other day. We needed to do something with a couple of rabbis, and one rabbi asked me, is going to be this rabbi there or not? He says, I don't know yet. I have to talk to him. He says, if he's there, I'm not there. I said, why not? Because he tells me, because his ideals, the way he thinks and the way he's leading his community, it is not done in the way of our traditions, in the ways of the Torah. More, yes. And it's spiritual dangerous. Spiritually dangerous. Obviously, I don't know all the details, but that's what this rabbi told me, and that's what I heard in the show yesterday. It says a person needs to understand that our Torah is not like a fashion. Fashion has its peak. It's out of style. Don't they say in English it's out of style? Correct? Many things are out of style. Furniture is one way, vehicles, garments, ties, dress, right? It's out of style. No, today people like more. They call it in the world of furniture or in the world of houses, a minimalist. Have you heard the word? What's the meaning of minimalist? Not even. Yani the less is more. In the olden days, used to be bulky, bulky kitchen, bulky furniture, bulky. Everything was bulky. Nowadays, they tell you, no, 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 no. I need an open space concept, right? I need open space. I want a kitchen, open space. Is a catch-22. Why? Because you better keep the kitchen clean constantly. Sometimes you have guests and you have no time to clean, to fix, etc. But okay, all that is whatever you decide. Make sure that your wife is in agreement with you on that department, and Shalom al Israel. But the Torah is very flexible and very clear that yes, there are certain halachic adjustments that we do based on living of current living. For example, yesterday I read an interesting article concerning electricity and Shabbat, how challenging certain appliances are becoming today, that they are really cannot be ever Shabbat friendly because they are so sophisticated and so technologically advanced, so to speak, that it makes it a problem even to open the fridge. Because you take a bottle of water and you put it back and it tells you you're running out of water. Remember to buy milk, because they have a sensor that by the weight, if it's complete, it's X. If it's less than a quarter bottle, they tell you time to buy. Or the LED. Somebody told me the story the other day. They bought a fridge. They said, okay, we're gonna have delivery. Look at this fellow. We're gonna have delivery Friday morning. So we use the lichvot Shabbat. Nice, cute. I don't know where they got that from, but it's beautiful. You buy a fridge and you say lichvot Shabbat Kodesh, Hazaku Baruch. He calls me up, Mosai Shabbat. Rabbi, I can't open the fridge. He said, why not? He says, because there is no way to remove the light. There is no way to remove the light. Hazaku Baruch. That's why today, even when you buy appliances, you got to go for the Shabbat mode. Look for the Sabbath mode. There are many brands and there are many websites out there that explain, which models are friendly, which models can be fixed. So sometimes being the ultimate sophistication in appliances may create a problem for Shabbat and holiday. So what do you got to do? You got to go a step back. Now give me the old-fashioned with a bulb. You want to buy it, you don't find it. But there are ways of how to obviously circumvent the system. And that's what the great rabbi said yesterday in the Shi'ur, that Zimri ben Salu, in his actions, he wanted to imply that he knew better than Moshe Rabbeinu. And obviously, irrelevant of who you are and how much Torah you know and who you are and your background, Torah Sivalanu Moshe Morasha Kehilat Yaakov. We have the Torah, we have the lessons of Moshe Rabbeinu, and even Sometimes you may say, but Rabbi, this is not found in the Torah. You know what the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot writes? Hafochba ba'afochba dekola ba. Everything is in the Torah. Hafochba ba'afochba. Go around here, go around there. Dekula ba. Everything is in the Torah. Sometimes you don't see it open. Okay, that's why we go to the great Hachamim. And they source from different Pesukim, from different Hachamim, from different halachic response in order to guide Am Israel. So let us hope and pray, Be'ezat Hashem, that the fact that the Ta'anit is on a Tuesday, that's already a good sign. Pa'amayim kitov. Also is on the 17th, as we mentioned the other day. 17 is the numerical value of the word tov. Okay? And according to what we learned on a Friday, in the name of the Hatam Sofer, that the birth of Mashiach was activated on the 17th of Tammuz, when Boaz and Ruth get married, and she conceives Oved, and Oved Ishai, Ishai David. So according to the Hatam Sofer, there is no more appropriate and suitable time in the year like these 3 weeks that's starting tonight for the redemption of all of Am Israel. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen be'amen. ברוך, שבוע טוב ומבורך to everybody. רבי חנניה בן הקשיא אומר, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל לפיכך, הרבה